Don't be mad at me if I say the post where people be like, what's the downside to being pretty is misogynistic, fueled by self-centered women. There's no downside to being pretty, baby. That happens to most, if not all women.
So there's a conversation going on TikTok. Ladies are talking about the downside of pretty privilege, the ugly side of being pretty, the ugly side that people don't talk about. Yes, there's pretty privilege. Like, we know that there's pretty privilege, but then there's some side that they go through that people are not talking about. All right, and this caused some buzz. There was a kind of, oh, you're ugly. You're not supposed to tell us that we are pretty, what we're facing because you're ugly. There was a lot of, buzz with two ladies anyway. But then I have interesting videos to share with you all today. We're talking about the downside of being pretty. Do you think that there are downsides of being pretty, or it's just a normal downside of being a woman? Because most of the time, the downside they're talking about is sexism, right? So do you think that when you're pretty, when you have the pretty privilege, is higher or not? Let me know your thoughts about this downside of being pretty down in the comment section while we go ahead and watch these videos together, and I'll be back to share my thoughts at the end of the video.
Don't be mad at me if I say the post where people be like, what's the downside to being pretty is misogynistic, fueled by self-centered women. There's no downside to being pretty, baby. That happens to most, if not all women. You're not the only one. Hey, they be in the comments like, we get sexualized. Most women do. Men think we're dumb. Men think a lot of women are dumb. Ugly, pretty or not, they think you're dumb. They think we're airheads, baby. Welcome to being a woman. Shut up. Y'all gonna be mad at me if I say the post where people be like, what's the downside to being pretty is...
One thing I cannot stand is a person who try to misunderstand people on purpose. That's all Selena's doing, is trying to misunderstand pretty girls on purpose. You know that pretty girls are mistreated firsthand because look how you acting. You treating the pretty girls mean simply because they're pretty. Are you not? Just like the pretty girls say, people mistreat us because they feel like we feel like we're better, or we feel like we're prettier. People mistreat you because they feel like you never been through anything because you're pretty. That's exactly what y'all doing to them. And Selena, I just want to know, how do you know what a pretty girl go through if you're not in their shoes? How do you know what they go through if you're not in their shoes? Y'all just trying to be some bullies on the internet. Literally, a girl sitting up here telling you, no, we're not excluding y'all, but we're just trying to tell our part of what we go through. And then you look and say, shut up, ha, 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 ha. And then you and the other girls in your comments laughing. All I see throughout your comments is a bunch of the girls who you see in school try to mistreat the pretty girls because they're pretty. Like, if that's not what y'all doing, what y'all doing? Because the pretty girls never said anything to y'all for real. They just told their experience. So why you had to try and go off on their experience when you know you never walked in their shoes? Like, just a bunch of internet bullies, just like they're always saying. Simply because they're pretty. Are you not? Just like the pretty girls say, people mistreat us because they feel like we feel like we're better, or we...
What's happening to this creator is absolutely insane. So Selena started a conversation about pretty privilege not really having a downside, because the way you get treated by men is just misogyny. It don't matter if you're pretty or not. Men are just men. This creator actually calls Selena out and says that us pretty girls go through so much you would not know because you don't fall in that category. And what's crazy about the situation is because the beauty standard for America, like the what quote unquote pretty girls, because beauty is in the eye of the beholder, whatever, those people are in her comments talking about some we. Imagine defending a group of people And then they get in the comments and like, but you're ugly too. I don't know. I think I would probably delete the post. I would delete the post, but I just think that's crazy for the creator to say when her and Selena don't look that far off from each other. The creator that made this video, and we're just talking about on a grand scale of America, what America considers beautiful. We're not talking about each individual person, because like I said, eye is in the beauty, in the eye of the beholder. But she doesn't benefit from pretty privilege either. So why would you call Selena out and call her ugly? And I'm not saying that this creator is ugly. I'm just saying what you're calling her out for affects you too. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it doesn't make much sense.
Because a lot of women have not found their purpose or their value outside of how they look, these are the same women that tend to inflate what the privileges of being pretty actually are. If you think for a second that you will be put on this perfect pedestal that no one can knock you off of just because you are pretty, you need to wake up. Let me give you some perspective that will help you really understand what I'm talking about. If you have ever been to a modeling casting, if any of you saw that period on TikTok where Pretty Little Thing held their open casting, do you notice how many women show up to these openings? There are millions of beautiful, pretty, attractive women. And just when you think you might be the prettiest person that someone has seen, there are thousands of more people who have better features, better facial harmony, better skin, a better body than you. I don't say this to knock your confidence. I don't say this to downplay how society treats pretty people, but that is not all you need to get by in life and to get by successfully. If you do not have a brain, meaning you don't know how to be tactful, you don't understand how business works, and if you pair that with not having a strong support system, you can be the most gorgeous woman on earth. You will still be walked like a dog. You will still be treated like scum of the earth. At the end of the day, for most people, especially in America, what people care about is money. They care about making their lives easier without having to do too much. If you can use your attractiveness to exploit that, to cheat that system, do it. But don't think you can get out of that system just because of how you look. Don't do that.
I love when this topic comes up because I just like to hear people with different perspective, and it was the downside to pretty privilege. There is a downside to pretty privilege, but I don't think it's misogyny. Like I said, I can agree with Selena on that. Like, misogyny is just all the way around the board. You know, men over-sexualizing women. You know, guys will fuck a hole in the wall. It is not just exclusive to pretty privilege. But one of the downsides to pretty privilege is that I've experienced myself, and one of my other friends, we were talking about this, is that when you have pretty privilege, you are not humanized. Like, when you're very attractive, people hold you to a certain standard, and they feel like you are not supposed to make everyday mistakes just like everybody else. And I'm gonna use this as an example, especially if people cannot relate to your pretty privilege or your attractiveness, they will be intimidated by you. And not only that, let's use this for example. Let's use Risa Tisa for example. People sympathize with Risa Tisa because, let's be completely honest, she's not an ugly girl, but she's not conventionally attractive. Now, had Risa Tisa been someone who was extremely attractive and over the top beautiful, 10 out of 10, 20, y'all would have really dragged her for Bill. Y'all would have said she knew better. For some reason, it's like attractive people are not allowed spaces to talk about how people treat them, or, you know, it's because you have pretty privilege. People will disregard the fact that you go through things just like everybody else in life. It'll be like, oh, you need to get over it. But if it's somebody else that they deem less attractive, or they sympathize with them, and that's a real thing, and we're not gonna act like that's not a real thing, because it is. Also, something I've experienced with being very attractive, which I think is weird. Y'all don't really think it's odd to dislike people because they're very attractive. Like, nobody chose their looks. How you mad at my mom and daddy because they decided to lay down and their jeans did their big one? Like, I think that's so odd to dislike people because of their appearance that they had no control over. Their features, like, we don't have control over that. My experience with the downside of pretty privilege, I'm gonna say mine doesn't even just solely have to do with my looks. I believe that people not only dislike me because of my looks, but the fact that I'm confident too. If you're attractive and you confident, people don't like that. So I know for me, it's not even just the fact that I'm pretty. It's the fact that I'm confident and I can walk in any room. I can say what I want to anybody. Like, I can just, I can just be myself and walk confidently in who I am. And a lot of times, feeling and being attractive and confident go hand in hand. And that's not like nowadays. Everybody wants you to have low self-esteem like majority of the people in the world. And that's a reality. So that's just my take on that.
Y'all gonna be mad at me if I say the post where people like, what's the downside to being pretty is...
I love this video so much because I've been hearing too many, the downsides of being pretty, the downsides of being pretty. It's just like rich people complaining that they are rich and they get trolled for being rich and so they wish they weren't rich. It sounds very stupid and dumb. Enjoy the pretty privilege if you have it. And don't complain, don't yap about the downside. Because would you rather be ugly or unattractive socially and conventionally? No. Yeah. Everyone is beautiful. But let's not lie, some people actually are not attractive. And they don't get as much privilege as you, who is attractive. So complain about the downsides, which everybody, attractive or not, also experiences, is ridiculous and dumb. It's so brain dead and tone deaf to even say that outside. Yes, I said what I said. Bye.
I am so tired of coming on this app and seeing girlies come on here to talk about, oh my god, the downsides of being pretty. What they don't tell you about pretty privilege. Babe, everything you're talking about is just sexism. Is it not clicking? Is it not clicking? Because you're talking about men not really wanting you, only lusting after you, and only wanting to experience you. Honey, that's objectification. How are you not making the links? You're talking about how women, oh my god, they think that I'm so bougie, they think I'm so standoffish, they think I'm mean automatically. Internalized misogyny. Why is it not clicking? Why is it not clicking? And I understand loads of people want to have conversations about the difficulties of dating, but also, let's be real. People who are conventionally unattractive to society, do you think their life is easier? Do you? And no one's denying that some of the things you may feel are a struggle or feel shitty, but you cannot then sit there and act like it's this, oh my god, it's this big oppressive system. The oppressive system you're trying to get at is sexism. We all experience it. When will it click? When will it click? When will it click? When will it click? Like, I don't know if they thought being pretty, being lusted after, being beautiful, whatever it is, was going to change the fact that sexism will still permeate through and affect them. Like, I don't know if you thought you're absolved from oppressive systems just because your face is on 10. No, honey, that's how oppressive systems work. Welcome to the world. Hi, this is Earth.
The dark side of pretty privilege is being lusted over but never loved. People always want to say that they've been able to experience you, but never that they loved you or cared for you or was attentive or helped build or whatever the case may be. Being pretty, for me, not has come at a disadvantage. However, I feel like, I've said it in my other videos before, I will say it again, being the pretty girl, people only want you for the trophy to show you off. Like, oh yeah, look at my tit, like whatever the case may be. But I've hardly found longevity. It's just, it's short-winded. It's like, yeah, she's pretty. That's who I'm with right now. And then it's like, yeah, boring. Next caller. Next caller. Next caller. Next caller. And it's like, you can be the best woman, like the prettiest best woman. Like, you could be nurturing, you could be caring, you could be attentive. You could tick every single box. You still won't make the cut because you, as the pretty girl, you're in use. It's a lusting. You're in use. And then when they're finished with you, when they're bored of the pretty, it's next. I'm telling you. I'm actually telling you. People just want to say they experienced the pretty girl. They never want to sit down and say they loved the pretty girl.
I've seen this topic a lot on TikTok, so I just want to talk about it a little bit. It's about how people with pretty privilege kind of victimize themselves and make it seem like it's the worst thing in the world. And I know it's been talked about on TikTok a lot, like they say it's just misogyny, it's not because of pretty privilege, and just how like women are treated like that in general. So I just wanted to share my thoughts on it as far as like where I stand on that. So I have a question to all the people that are conventionally attractive. If you could choose what you could be born as, would you be ugly or would you be attractive? And ugly as in not conventionally attractive or meeting the standards. I'm not saying like literally. Because I'm pretty sure 90% of the time people would choose to be attractive in a heartbeat. It's no questions asked. No way you're going to come out of the womb and be like, yeah, I want to be unattractive so I can be left alone. Because either way, as a woman, you're treated like shit when you're ugly. When I was like dead ugly, like worse than this, I was literally getting bullied, especially in school. It was terrible. And all the popular girls that were attractive, just like, they were living good lives. I had to basically make it up for my personality and my kind, caring soul. So it was just like, I have to be kind in order to prove something to you, but people with the bat of an eye can just look attractive and get whatever they want. We all want what we can't have, right? But when it comes to having a privilege, it's completely different, because when you have pretty privilege, it's literally a privilege. You know what I mean? And if your answer to that question is you'd rather be ugly, then you have no idea what it's like. Because literally, like, you're not left alone when you're ugly. If anything, you're made fun of in private. You're not approached. People think the worst things about you, or they treat you differently just because of your like appearance. But honestly, if it were my choice, I'd very much rather have someone be jealous of me than someone literally make fun of something I can't change, you know? I'd rather somebody be insecure about themselves because of me, rather than them me being insecure because of someone else. If that makes sense.
I personally think there is a downside to pretty privilege now. However, what I say, don't get it misconstrued, it does happen to people, but it tends to happen more likely to prettier people because of the concept that a lot of people tend to project onto prettier people based on previous experiences. Now, this theory was derived because I was scrolling through TikTok and somebody had made a post, and it was somebody apparently, because I don't know if it's true or not, but apparently they work for Fashion Nova. And y'all know the girl that, like, that's really on most of them. I don't really know the girl's name, but the person has said she has the worst attitude. And I had went in the comments, and I'm scrolling through the comments, and somebody had made the remark, I knew it, it's always the pretty ones. And that's where the theory came to be. Like, not to say it doesn't happen, but when you're prettier, people assume that you're just supposed to act like a snob. Don't get me wrong, there are snobby pretty girls. But at the same time, there are snobby ugly girls. But you don't say, oh, all ugly girls are snobby. But you tend to say all pretty girls are snobby until proven otherwise, because they're pretty, because of your previous experiences with somebody else. You don't know that person per se, but because of your previous experiences, you side-eye them. Some people even go out their way to the point where they're finding any reason. Now, keep in mind, this girl didn't know the pretty Fashion Nova model. She didn't know her. She just assumed that she had a crappy attitude. And the boy saying that, yeah, she has the crappiest attitude on set confirmed that suspicion that she had. But why did you already have that preconceived suspicion? Because you must have had another experience where you dealt with a pretty girl who was crappy. Now you just assumed that she had to have been crappy. You didn't know she was crappy until he had confirmed that she was crappy. But that's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of you will find little things to prove your point about an individual being crappy. You don't go out your way. Like, that's what I'm saying. It happens, but it happens more to prettier girls. People don't go out their way to prove that they don't try to justify your character. When you're pretty, people feel the need to, like, oh, you're pretty with a cute personality. That's fake. Something about you's off. Like, it's suspicious. It's a combination. It's not just pretty privilege. It's pretty with a great personality. You can't, and don't mess up and have triple threes. You're pretty, smart, and with a great personality. Like, you have all three of those. Oh, people are gonna be pissy. And it's like, oh yeah, it happens to women. It happens to women. No, but it happens more to people with those three totem poles. Like, you have all three of those, Even women are turning on you. I don't care what y'all say. I don't care what y'all say. Females turn on females. I see it each and every day on this app for real. It's really like twist the ball. Let's play devil's advocate, okay? Let's really play devil's advocate, because the truth of that is, what if mean, like rude pretty girls are mean and rude because they're tired of how other females have put them down? Because it's one thing when like outside people turn on you, like the male race. If a male race turns on a female, that's not really, that might just hit her, but that's not gonna hit her as hard. But then it's just like when females do it, and not just any female, like your cousin or like your mom or like somebody close to you that you were like, oh damn, you got all people. When they turn on you and do some like flawed stuff and there's no justifiable reason for it, a lot of them, maybe that's why they so pissy. I mean, technically, I personally feel as if people, like, stuff happens, you know, like, everybody goes through what they go through, and nothing should justify you being a crappy person. It's a choice. You choose to be happy, and you choose to be, you know, like, you make a choice each and every day. It's a conscious decision that you make. That's just how I feel, because I could be a crappy person, but nobody says, oh, you're crappy because of the things you went through in life. It's, oh, you're crappy, I'm expecting nothing less. Like, when you see somebody who's ugly with a crappy personality, it's like, okay, well, she mad because she ugly. You blame it on looks. But it's just like with pretty people, you can't say, oh, she's crappy because she's ugly. You have nothing to justify the actions. So therefore, you turn to the fact that they're just a snobby, pretty girl.
While I don't personally believe there is a downside to pretty privilege, I do feel like there's a downside to lack in confidence. I understand that beauty is subjective, so how one person may see me, the next person may not. I've also witnessed getting different responses, or witnessed other people get different responses based on how they show up, their confidence. Downside to confidence being people see you how you see yourself. Which brings me to the thought, is pretty privilege even really real if beauty is in the eye of the beholder? What if some of you pretty girls experience people sucking up to you because they're lacking confidence, not because of how pretty you are? Or what if they just want to be nice? Where did this pretty privilege thing come from? Don't want to hear saying pretty privilege doesn't exist. It's like saying white privilege doesn't exist. It's not the same. One thing about race, it's not subjective. And I guarantee that nobody is going to give me special privileges because they think I'm white.
When we're talking about pretty privileges, in fact, I've done this video before, and to date, I still get comments on that video about people coming for those ladies that come out to say they are pretty or they have pretty privileges. I see comments on those videos, and the kind of comments I see that are still popping up to date is that these girls are not even that pretty. What are they talking about? What is the pretty privilege they're talking about? So I feel like everybody, or society, natural society, has its own beauty standards, and then individual have their own beauty standards. Like the way you look at somebody and be like, oh, this girl is so pretty, and you call somebody else and be like, look at that girl, she's very pretty, and like, she's not that pretty. I just feel like individual also has how they view somebody as being pretty and all of that. I'm not going to talk about the two ladies that were coming for each other, because she's telling that one that she's not pretty enough, so she cannot understand what it means to be pretty. But then people are saying she's not even pretty, so what is she even saying? It just shows to tell you that everybody has their own standard. I don't see anything wrong with those women. I don't see anything wrong with them. They're pretty in my eyes, or they are beautiful in my eyes. But when it comes to society and how people just want you to look a certain way, to view you as, wow, you're so pretty, I don't think everybody has that privilege, right? Okay, because when it comes to, and somebody was talking about modeling and casting. When people go for casting and modeling, that's when you can tell when somebody is pretty or not. For me, I will not say that is when you tell when somebody is pretty or not, because I have gone for modeling and casting when I was very, very young. When I was very, very young, right? I was going for modeling. I was very slim then, and I just love modeling. I don't know, I just think I love modeling, right? So we went for a casting or an audition for a particular advert, right? And they were given a particular height, like, okay, if you're within this height, just come. That's all they needed. They didn't tell you, oh, you have to look a certain way, da da da. They just said if you're within. So I looked at my height and I was around that height, and we're so much in that audition. I think it was just girls. They called girls, right? So because we're so much, they were now confused. They didn't know how to pick. So you know what they did? They were like, okay, everybody else line up 10-10, like straight line. So some people were lining up. So fast forward the whole thing. When it goes to my own stage, the kind of girls that they didn't pick me. Oh, I was not picked. The kind of girls that they picked were light-skinned girls, way light-skinned girls. They were not the ones that were so tall. Maybe okay, they were picking only taller girls. No, light-skinned girls. Every black skin or darker skin color were not picked. So at the end of the day, the ones that were not picked, when we're going home, walk of shame, well, it was so annoying. So I kind of feel like it's not like we're feeling like we're very ugly. They didn't know. I know that they were picking the very, very light skinned girls. That's the girls they were picking for their adverts. And it was kind of obvious because if 10 people were lined up and there was no a very light skin girl, like very, very light skin girl, if they were not there, out, like, sorry, we're sorry, you can go home. When there's a light skin girl to pick and the rest were going. So it doesn't really feel like they're picking pretty. To me, I won't say they're picking pretty girls, right? It's just this kind of standard of adverts they were looking for, girls they want for their advert they were looking for. But then everybody has what they see as being pretty. But then are they downside of pretty privilege? I would say yes, they are downside because, of course, anything that has the good side will also have a bad side, in my own opinion, right? Because I know there is good side of being pretty. The kind of advantage, almost everybody wants to be your friend, everybody wants to get close to you, everybody wants to smile at you, like they want to even give you things, right? Because you're pretty in their eyes. The older women like you, the younger ones like you. I'm not talking about, everybody just wants to be close to you because you're pretty. Even when you're in school, your lecturer wants to get close to you because you're pretty. The teachers want to get close to you because you're pretty. Those are the pretty privileges, right? But then I feel like everything that has pretty privilege or pretty things must always have the ugly parts. And because these ladies, the ones that are pretty, coming out to say that the downside of it is that they get easily essayed, they get raped, they get from men, it's kind of unnecessary attention from men that they don't like it. And then some women are coming out to say that these are normal things that every woman go through. I know every woman go through when it comes to sexism. I know. But then people that are way more pretty, that are way more attractive to these men, they go through it way more. That is what I feel. I feel like if two girls are working in they're working together and one is way pretty and the other one is not way pretty in their own eyes, right? The one that is so pretty is the one that is going to be the target. It's not going to be the other one. The other one, they just be like, I want to talk to your friend, and your friend and your friend is doing shakara, your friend is like, I don't want to talk to you. Their target is with that one that is way pretty that they want to talk to, not the one that is average looking, if that makes sense. But then what is your take? Do you think there are downside of pretty privilege, or what is your take about pretty privilege and ugly privilege as well? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Respectfully, is your favorite girl again, Maria David. And don't forget to like and share and subscribe, and please turn on the post notification bell so you can get notified as soon as I upload another interesting video. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.